Okay, I'm going to explain how to play Battle School. First, I'm just going to cover the cards that come in the game. There's two types of cards. There's the location or classroom cards, and each classroom has an arrow pointing to where to place the students, and we'll cover that more, and then it has a name of each room. Then the student cards, there's four important parts to each student card. There is the standard power level in the top left corner. In the bottom right corner, there's the faction power level. And all of the cards are color coordinated by faction. So you can see this is the black faction, and there's the black faction group picture there. The other thing to note is on some of the student cards, there is a special ability. So you'll want to take that in consideration when drafting your class. In Battle School, the object is to get a group of students together and try and have the highest power level to fight in a room. So the higher power level, the better. Here we can see three students. Their total power level, going off their standard power level, is 5 plus 6 is 11 plus 1 is 12. So the total power level for this group is 12. If you have students of the same faction, you need 3 or more. If you do have 3 or more, then you get the bonus here. So there, since there's 3 black faction, we get the 6 plus 3, which is 9, plus 6 more is 15. In addition to these 3 being in a faction, this character has an ability. It says double the power level of a faction member in the same room. So his classmates here are in the same faction, so he can choose one of them to double. Since we're using the faction power levels, we both have 6. So one of these would get doubled. So we'd have 12 on this character, plus 3 is 15, plus 6 is 21. So the total power level for these 3 students would be 21. If we had these 3 students, we'd no longer be getting the faction bonus, so we'd be using the 5, 0, and 1, but his ability still goes into effect. So he's doubling a faction member, which is him, so that put him at 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 0 plus 1, which is 11. So the total power level for this group would be 11. In Battle School, the way you pick your students is by drafting. How drafting works is you make piles depending on how many players. If you have 2 players, you're going to have 2 piles of 30 cards. If you have 3 players, you're going to have 3 piles of 20 cards. If you have 4 players, you're going to have 4 piles of 15 cards. And if you have 5, you're going to have 5 piles of 12 cards. So right now we have it set up for a 4-player game, and there is 15 cards in each pile. What will happen first is each player will grab their pile and they will look through the cards and pick which one they want to add to their team. I'm just going to pick this one, so it's going to go to me. So there were 15 cards in this pile, now there's 14, and I'm going to pass it to the person to my left, and they're going to pass their pile of 14 cards to their left. I will pick up that pile and I will pick a student from there. And we're going to continue going in a circle until all of the cards have been chosen. So when you're done, each player will have 15 cards of their choice, and then you can start the next phase. So now I'm going to go over placement, phase, and strategy for winning a fight. So I've decided to take the locker room, the gymnasium, and the history room, and those are rooms where I want to fight. So I need to put students in those rooms to win the fight. So here I want to put at least 3 black faction members for the history room. So how I will do that is by placing them face down, and the arrow is pointing towards that pile. So I know this pile is going to fight in the history room. For the locker room here, I want to put... Okay, I'm just going to go over how to do a fight to see who has the highest power level. We have player 1 and player 2. Player 1 flips their first card. Player 2 looks at their card, and they can see that it's a standard power level of 5 to 3, so they put it into play. They still feel like they have a chance to win. Player 1 goes, and they want to keep playing also. So right now we can already tell that their standard power level is 3 and 3, but if they get a third green faction member, it'll go from a total of 6 to a total of 11. Player 2's turn again. They see that even if they get the faction bonus, they're still pretty close. So they play their card. And this is where a lot of the strategy comes into play, because you always have to do the order of the cards revealed. And you always have a chance to, when it's your turn and you look at that top card, you can decide to move that person to a different room. But player 2 still wants to stay in play. So it's down to the final card. If on your turn, before you flip your card, if you decide you want to get out of the fight, you can move your next card to a different room, but you automatically forfeit that room, even if you would have more points. But they're going to keep playing. So they did reveal a third green faction, so here we can see the total power level. Is 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 6 is 15, and then they have 5 from this. So the total is 20. So player 2 looks at their card, and before they play it into play, they can add up their power level and see that 10 and 6 and 6 is 22, so they can already see that they have more points, and so they're going to play it for a total of 6 and 6, 5 and 5, 22 to win the round. So in Battle School, you have an option to run away, and when a student runs away from a room, they can reinforce a different room. So right now we have the math room and the office, and during the fight, if a player realizes they're not going to win the fight for power level in the math room, they can take their top card and reinforce another room. When you do that, you automatically leave the rest of your cards face down and you lose the point. So if you run away, you automatically forfeit the point, even if you had a higher power level at the time that you run away. And the card that runs away always has to go to the very top of the room they're going into. I'm just going to show another fight and how strategy can come into play. So we're going to start with this player. They reveal their first card, and this player reveals theirs, and you can see that the standard power level is very weak, but the possibility of bonus is really high. So the second player, or this player's going to play their next card, and it's just kind of an average score. They're going to play their next card, and hopefully the idea is that this very low standard power level can kind of trick this person into playing another card because their bonus is higher than what the bonus for these two players is, or cards. So they're going to flip theirs over, and we can see that they got the bonus, so their total score is 17, and now it's this player's turn. They look at their card, they realize that their strategy didn't work, trying to trick the other person. So they're actually going to move this card to a different location. And it's going to go on top of a different room. And since this player moved the card, they automatically get the points. Okay, I'm just going to cover why the battle order is very important. We're going to look at these 4 cards. They're all part of the same faction. I'm going to have him be first, then her second, her next, and him last. So my cards will go face down, and I reveal him first, and then her next, and then her. And let's say it's my turn and I'm looking at this card, and I realize that even with the faction bonus and everything I have here, I'm still going to lose. I don't have a higher power level. My 20 points isn't higher than their amount of points. So I can run him away and reinforce him. However, if he doesn't get a faction bonus in another room, he's only worth 1 point. So having him go last isn't very good. Now let's reverse it, and he's going to go first this time, and he's going to go last. So we reveal him, and then her, and then her. And now we realize that we're still going to lose even with our faction bonus, but we have a much standard power level that's higher than what this would have been, and now he can go reinforce and put his 6 standard power level to better use in a different room. Okay, I'm just going to show why order is important here and how you can bluff. You always want to, you don't want your opponent to run away from a room and reinforce. You want them to use all their cards and still lose. So here, I know I'm going to get my faction bonus, but I want to make sure that I don't do it all right away. So I'm going to have this order, with these 2 first, him third, and then revealing my faction bonus at the end. So during the battle, I start revealing cards, and maybe my opponent sees these 3 out and they think, oh, there's no way that they got the faction bonus. They didn't draft all the blue faction they needed. So they continue playing. Then you can reveal a big faction bonus at the end, and hopefully you got all of their cards and you still win the point for the room. I'm just going to go over different abilities that some of the students have. Here you can see that his standard power level is 0, which isn't very good, and his faction bonus is 3, which isn't very good either. But his ability is double the power level of a faction member in the same room. So even though he doesn't look that good, his ability is pretty good. We're going to look at this character. She has really, really good stats, but her ability is you must set a faction member's power level in the same room to 0, which seems pretty bad, but there's different combos. Maybe you could combo these 2 together. You're setting him to 0 anyway, and she's either getting double 6 or double 10.